Welcome to this video. In our previous video, we have seen how we can create a database. The logical step next to creating a database would be to create a table where we can load the data, correct? However, before we move into creating a table, let's understand the SQL constraints. This is a very useful and very important concept before you start creating any table. Why? Let's explore. So in the SQL constraint, you ideally specify rules for all the data which you want to key in a particular table. If you don't specify a particular constraint in a table, then it might get prone to corrupt data or some data which ideally should not be placed in that particular table. Okay, so if you place a constraint, it ensures accuracy and reliability of the data. Okay, and in a layman term, let's understand that we are setting some kind of rules to a particular table or particular column. And if there is any violation to that rule, the action is aborted and it will give you a message stating that you are not adhering to a particular rule which is applied to that column. Okay, so with this concept, let's understand what all SQL constraints are present, which we can use in a table or in a column. So these are the basically six constants which we can use. Not null. They are quite self-explanatory, but let me quickly walk you through on this particular topics. So not null means it will ensure that there is not a single null value present in that particular column. Okay. Unique. It says that all the values in the column should be different. Okay. Primary key. So primary key states that uniquely it identifies each row. So if you ideally use that particular column as the primary key, then automatically you are taking care of that unique constraints, right? So if you are using some ID, for example, student ID in a class table, you are specifying that as the primary key constraint, then definitely you cannot have duplicate student ID for that particular class, correct? So in that case, you are taking care of the unique constant as well. So if you are specifying primary key, it's not required that you have to specify again as the unique constant for that particular column. It's automatically taken care. Okay. Now foreign key, it identifies a row in another table. What do we mean by that? Suppose we have table A and table B. Table A, we have primary key as student ID, correct? Table B, we have subject ID. It's related to subject, so subject ID, subject name, and student ID. Okay, so table A primary key is student ID and student name. We have data, so student ID is the primary key for student table. Subject ID is the primary key for subject table. Now if you want to link both these tables, so how you can link? You can link student ID present in student table into student ID present in the subject table. So student ID in student table would be your primary key and student ID in your subject table would be your foreign key. Okay, so a primary key get linked with the foreign key in another table. Okay, this concept we will explore in detail once we move into those topics. Now we can also add a check constraint. So this constraint ensure that all values in a column satisfy a specific condition. If you mention a particular condition, for example, if I want to add a column of student age for a particular class, I should say that age should always be more than, for example, let's say 10 years. If a student is 5 years, then he or she is not allowed to be in that particular class for which we are maintaining the particular database. It might be that here that student might be present in a lower class, but not for that particular class where the limit is that it should be greater than 10. Correct? So if you have that kind of check condition and if you're trying to enter a date, uh, trying to enter a data which is less than 10, it will give you an error message. Again, we will see this in detail when we move into those constraint and we try to create using the SQL queries. This is just the theoretical part of that. Okay, and again, you have a last constant which is called as default constant. So it sets a default value for a column when no value is specified. Again, you can specify a particular column as default. If they miss it and it's not a unique, sorry, not a not null constant is not there, so definitely a person can miss that data. So if a person missed that data, you can avoid giving that null value. You can set some default value which can be entered default or by of its own when a person enter all the data but miss that particular column's data. So with this concepts, let's move into the practical of all those constraints individually. And once we are clear on these constraints, then we would start fresh to create a table, and then we would explore much into that data table. Okay. Thank you for watching this video.